My hair's about ready to drive me insane. We are in Florida and the humidity is terrible. Jared's fully embracing his Florida hair. Me, it only makes me angry. It was last fall. I'm sitting in a room with women, and our goal was to learn how to learn together. And specifically what that learning was in the pages of the Bible. And there started to be this theme. At first, I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but it felt like tension. And to say disagreement, that would be too extreme. But like a friction in the air when we would talk about applying the Bible, or even sometimes how to study the Bible. I would be taking the lead and talking about how we need to understand, like in our heads, understand the Word of God. Understanding is our most important step, according to me. And then you would have someone like Charlene, my friend, who would be like, Melissa, do you have to always define everything? Do you have to understand everything before we can talk about what are we actually going to do with this? If we're not doing it, what does it matter if we understand it? And then somebody else would say, well, wait, no. This is about our relationship with God. It doesn't matter if we understand it or if we're doing it. If there is not connection to our God, to the Spirit, you might as well just pack it up and go home. So I left one particular night really feeling that tension between us. Some of us wanting to stay in our heads, some of us wanting to stay in our hearts, and then some of us just wanting to do what the Bible has asked us to do. It's like it hit me like a ton of bricks. That's what this is. It must have been about 10 years ago. Dave Kuntz, who was at that time an executive pastor. This has always meant so much to Andy and I. Andy is my ministry partner. Dave took us both under his wing to mentor us specifically for teaching, for communicating with other women about the Bible. And every single week, he would meet with Andy and I together. And one thing that he drilled into us was when we teach, we need to hit the head, the heart, and our hands. It needed to be logical and make some sort of sense. It needed to hit our hearts, that it wasn't just all head, but the heart of God was made evident or clear. And it needed to flow out into our hands. It had to be practical. We had to do something with it. We had to be able to live it out. As I reflected back on that night at Bible Lab, where I could feel this tension, I'm like, wait a second. We're each filtering the Bible through one primary lens of this head, heart, or hands. I'm like, wait, is this true? I think it is. When I'm learning, I lead with my head. My counselor would probably say I lead with my head everywhere I go. I'm going to think. I want it to be logical. I want to understand it. That has to be the first thing I encounter, is this. And then I started to think about my other friends like Jenny and Annette and Amanda. And I'm like, oh, that's why they're always talking about how they feel. Seeing the Bible through their heart, their relationship with God, their relationship with other people. It's their primary way that they're filtering the Bible through. They're filtering their learning through. They're coming from their hearts. My friend Charlene, Tabitha was another one. Man, they're coming at it. What do we do? They want to live out the Bible by doing, and that is their instinct. How God has wired them and created them is to think about doing first. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, oh, this is what's happening. I'm taking my perception of what is right. Understanding is the ultimate way of learning. And then for my heart, friends are saying, relationship and love and connection is the ultimate way to learn. And my friends that are all about doing are like, doing and practical application is the ultimate way to learn. Wait a second, we are all correct. And we are also judging one another and thinking, but they're not doing it right. And it's causing this real low level friction that's happening as we're trying to learn together. But what if the actual truth is to fully embody the Bible, to live in the Spirit, with the Spirit? What if we need our head, our hearts, and our hands to actually be transforming learners? So I started fiddling around with this idea of, wait a second, what if when I read the Bible and my head comes really easily to me, and my heart I can kind of get to as well. The hands, oh, that's very, very difficult and I'm not good at it. What if Charlene and Tabitha are in this circle to influence me, to teach me how to actually use my hands in doing? What if I looked at head, heart, and hands as equally important, even if I lead with one, but I leverage the strength of my friends in a circle to help me even out and fully embody a type of learning that is actually transformational, all the way from my head to my heart to my hands? What if this is the key to reading the Bible with friends, learning together in a way that leaves me radically different and radically changed? How are we going to learn how to learn together? Well, we've got to make connections, and we've got to connect our head to our heart to our hands. And because I'm so head oriented, I need my other friends around me to help. Not so I can judge them and tell them they're looking at the Bible the wrong way, but to leverage their strength to show me how to do what I am not great at, and vice versa is true. I hope that my friends that maybe don't start with their head, that I will be of some benefit to them. I wanted to put this in your ear because next week you're going to hear from some of my friends.
Melissa, feeling is the most important thing.
And we'll get down more in the weeds of what does it sound like to be a person who your learning starts in your head? What does it sound like for a person whose learning starts in their heart? What does it sound like for a person whose learning starts with their hands? I think this is really, really important that we understand how we're wired to learn, and also what is our weakest way of learning. And as we get into a circle of friends, to watch another person whose strongest is your weakest, and to watch them like a hawk because they will teach you. I'm becoming more and more convinced that this is transformational learning, and it cannot be done on my own. I'd love to just live in my head all day long. Some of us would like to live in our hearts all day long. Some of us would just like to go and do and run and stay busy with our hands all day long. But what this forces me to do to get outside of myself. Maybe for someone who is already external, it would force them to come inside of themselves. It helps holistically because I want to fully embody the Word of God. I don't just want to know it. I don't just want to feel it. And I don't just want to do it. I want all three of these. We are having such a good time on Patreon. Well, let me correct that. I am having such a good time on Patreon. Patreon is a community where we get to connect with one another about the deep things of God. And we've talked about spiritual gifts and resting and refueling and what does that look like? Those are the deep things. And then also we're talking about nonsense. Here, take a listen to our silly question for the week. So I was talking to Candy Moppin and she was telling me a story. And I hear her say, and I was a street fighter.
I was a street fighter, a real fighter growing up, physical fighter.
And then she like goes on and I'm like, wait, pause, wait. What did she just say?
A street fighter.
Street fighter. Is that like some sort of like analogy for something? Like, surely Candy was not an actual street fighter, like out on the streets fighting. What is something that would surprise or shock someone if they knew it about you. Street Fighter definitely shocked me. One surprising fact about me was when I was 5 years old, I wanted to be an opera singer. I would go around the house singing in a high falsetto voice. I really thought it was possible. So Patreon friends will listen to that and they'll respond either by video or by audio, or they can even respond by just text if they don't want to show their face. And it's a way to connect. It's been a whole lot of fun. So if you want to learn more about that, I've got the link below in the comments. If you haven't subscribed, I hope you'll subscribe. A new video goes up every single Sunday at 2 p.m. I will see you, I hope, next Sunday.